You're listening to She's the Business podcast. Planning. Some people love it. Some people hate it. And yes, now we're in planning season. This topic is going to be coming up more and more. And I used to be firmly in the camp of hating planning. Could not stand it. Tedious. It was time consuming. It was boring. It was not fun for me. But I found a way to make it work for me, to make plans that are valuable, that keep me on track and focused and achieving results. And they're not long, they're not boring, and they're not tedious either. So today I'm sharing with you all about my very simple, streamlined planning method, and I call it my CEO snapshot. I'm going to share with you what the CEO snapshot is all about and why we should plan this way instead of the old traditional way. So if that sounds good to you, stay tuned. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and in my 23 years of business and marketing, I've built many brands to become multi-billion-dollar companies. And just in the last 10 years, I've built 2 online businesses of my own from my dining room table with 2 little babies running around at my feet. I've made it my mission to inspire you to get out of your own way and become the successful business owner who's living the lifestyle you really desire without all the hustle. This is She's the Business podcast, made by women for women. This is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration. This time of year in November, we're normally focused on finishing the year strong. There's lots going on, and then we're into the crazy busy Christmas period. And then before we know it, bam, it's the 1st of January, it's a new year, and suddenly we're looking ahead to a brand new year and the roadmap. What is it that we're meant to be doing? And it's so hard to pull our brains back out of holiday mode and click back into business, especially here in Australia. Pretty much the country goes on holiday for the whole of January. And so the year for most starts in February. And what I find is that business planning, the traditional style of business planning, there are so many things about it which just don't work for us these days. You know, they're so restrictive in terms of they're long and tedious to put together. They're very detailed. They are, yes, they give you a plan, but they're so restrictive, and our world changes that much that in my experience of all the planning that I've done over the last 10 years, both in my corporate roles and in my own business, pretty much as soon as you've created a plan at that level of detail, that strategy, it changes. Something changes and you're changing it. Now, some people might say, well, that's okay. You just change it again. But for me, time is valuable. It's super, super valuable. And to be honest, I do not want to be spending a lot of my time rehashing, editing, changing plans that I've already created. So what used to happen was I'd make a plan because I'd have to, especially when I was head of marketing and communications, I had to submit a strategic plan to the board every year. And I'd make this plan and it would sit in the files after I'd submitted it, and it would never be looked at ever again. It was just the most ridiculous waste of time that I could have ever imagined. You might be thinking, well, did that mean that you didn't achieve anything or didn't have the results? But no, this was a company that I took from startup where I was employee number 14 and the first marketing department member. And I grew the marketing department, and the company, by the time I left 6 years later, was a multi-billion-dollar company on the stock exchange here in Australia in the top 100 firms. So yes, marketing worked. The planning, though, was very ineffectual at the level of detail that most business plans, the traditional business plans, seem to be. So I thought about this and thought, there's got to be a better way. We do need a plan. There's value in having a plan. We need a plan because if we don't have one, what happens then is we get distracted. There's always the idea that's popping up in your head, like, oh, I should do that. Oh, someone else is doing this over here. And I've just had this great idea. I'm inspired by something. And you just head off down tangents. And soon you're in a tangent, off another tangent. And you've deviated so far from your original plan that where you're heading is not where you intended to get to. It may be in a totally new direction. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing a pivot, but a strategic pivot is one where you sit down, you figure out what is it that I actually want to do, and then you make that change and pivot in that new direction. So you lay out the roadmap, you kind of set the destination. Imagine if we all took off in an aeroplane thinking, I just want to go on holiday, but there's no destination. Well, how does the plane know where to go? It doesn't know where to fly. We don't want to be flying around up in the air, going in circles and landing goodness knows where. Like, you could end up having a terrible holiday. No, we want to go to the best places, please. We want to head to, the Mediterranean or the Caribbean or somewhere exotic and amazing. Maybe even in the snow. I do love the snow. So I might have headed to the Alps in Austria and spent some time in Tyrol. Having said that, so what this is about is, yes, we want to know where we're heading, where the destination is, and we actually want to lay a high-level view of the roadmap of how we're going to actually get there. But we don't want to get bogged down in the minutiae of the detail, because that gives us no flex, no room for movement, and it means that if you're anything like the majority of women who I know and work with, after a month or two of following our carefully laid out plan, the plan is now not aligned with where we want to go, and we just ditch it. So then we go into, going with the flow, free reign, and that might sound really freedom-like and light and easy breezy, like, I'm just going to go with the flow. It's going with the flow when you've got a roadmap, great, because you can go with the flow. You can do the things that feel good to you, that make sense to you right now, but you're still heading in the direction that you want to be heading. So what I call it, my view of planning is I set the roadmap so that I can go with the flow. So that I can go with the flow and be effective. I can go with the flow and actually still get to my destination. And in fact, I may even get there faster than I had initially anticipated, because I've got enough freedom and flexibility in the way that I've done my planning to let myself leverage opportunities that pop up, to let myself take advantage of what I see going on and great inspiration that I have along the way, so that I can do things at my best. I can give ultimate value. I can level up. I can challenge myself. I can do all of those things and yet still be following my plan, because I've created a plan with enough flex, freedom, and space that it gives me a goal to reach for, and it gives me direction. It stops me from getting distracted and going off down tangents and having shiny object syndrome. But I have breathing space to make decisions along the way. And that is what I found the key to sustained growth, the key to success, and the key to just not feeling like you're restricted, I guess, not feeling like you're bound to this plan that you made. And by the time we get to the end of the year, it's like 12 months ago. Gosh, what were you even thinking 12 months ago? What was happening 12 months ago? No doubt it's totally different to what you're thinking and feeling right now. So you might be thinking now, okay, yes, I totally agree. I don't like restrictive plans. I like to be able to make decisions. I definitely want to be able to take advantage of opportunities that come up and to be able to flex and flow and have inspired action. Great. Because what I'm going to share with you today is an overview of what I call my CEO snapshot. Now, this is a 2-page plan that I create for a whole year that I use for my business. I also use it with my Momentum Club group coaching members, because it keeps us focused. It keeps us focused on growth and scaling, and it also gives us the freedom and flexibility to move the way that our business is going, but that we're ending up at the destination that we've decided we want to end at. So this is a 2-page plan, people. You can print it out on one piece of paper, double-sided, bang, stick it up on your wall. There you go. There's your plan. And guess what? It's not in a file. It's not stuck in gathering digital dust in that file, in your computer, on your Google Drive, wherever. It's there. You can see it. It's on your wall. And that means that you can look at it and you can keep focused, keep yourself on track, and make really good decisions. I think that's probably one of the things that is less spoken about, is the way that you make good decisions. So instead of just weighing up a decision based on the circumstances that you're in and, how I feel right now and all of that kind of stuff, you're actually making decisions based on, is this in alignment? Does this align with what I wanted to achieve? And if this activity that you're deciding about is not aligned to your plan and your goal that you set for yourself, then you've got really good decision-making criteria, because you've got to stop and think, well, if I say yes to this, does that mean that I'm saying no to putting all of my energy and power towards achieving the goal that I set? If this is not aligned, if it's not helping me reach that goal, then it's actually distracting me from it. It's taking me away from achieving that goal, which means slowing you down, making it longer and harder to actually get to that end goal that you set. So you've got to take a really long, hard look at this new thing that you're deciding about and think, is it worth it? What is it worth? What is the value? If it's not helping me achieve that goal, what is it actually going to bring or do? Or is it really just a bit of an exciting idea, a fancy distraction? Maybe it's someone else's opinion or something that they're doing and they've got you all excited and motivated about it, which is so easy to do. But if it's not helping you achieve that goal, then you've got to ask yourself, why? How is it actually going to help me? So that's why I like to have this really simple, high-level plan that gives you the decision-making criteria and formula, and it also keeps you on track with what targets you need. So I mentioned that I've got this 2-page plan, and there's really 4 steps of the plan that I take my clients through. There's obviously a lot of detail around each of these 4 steps, but when we put it together on one page, it's simple. It's not a page of writing and text. It's actually a page of very few words and a few numbers, so that you can put it up on the wall and it's visual. You can see what it is that you are aiming for and how you're tracking against it as well, of course. So now, being in November, this is the time that we should be making the plan, because we set the plan now. You know what you're going to be achieving for next year. And actually, you can even start to work towards this goal and these activities starting from right now. When you make this plan, you can start straight away, which means you're giving yourself a head start on 2022 or whatever year it might happen to be when you do your plan. So I do this every single year, and then I do a review at half year to see, well, has my end goal changed? Is it still the same? Am I tracking towards it? How am I tracking? Do I need to adjust any of my quarterly goals so that I'm reaching my annual goal still? We can do all of that, but it just means that you're adjusting something very small. It only takes a couple of minutes, as opposed to long hours of planning and, long documents that we really, really don't need. So the first step is obviously set the goal or intention for the year, right? What is it? What do we want to actually achieve? And let's not go for something that we think is likely, because if you go for what's likely, you probably will do it. But what if you set the bar high? What if you might be able to achieve that? What if you could reach a level that you didn't even think was possible? We really overestimate what we can do in a day or a week even. We very much underestimate what we can do in a year. We underestimate even what we can do in 90 days, which is why I do 90-day growth sprints. So we cut the year up into 4 90-day cycles, and we do those because it's a lot easier to stay focused for 90 days. You try to focus on something for a whole year, you're never going to get there. That's just human nature. Who can stay focused for a whole year on one thing? Very, very difficult. But 90 days, yeah, we might waver a little bit at times, but it's a lot easier to do. So we set the goal or intention for the whole year. We don't worry about the 90 days yet, because we're going to get to that. Then we identify what is the primary service offering that we are promoting. What is it? What's the main thing that we're selling in our business that's going to get us to our end goal, our revenue goal, that target, the business that we want, what is the main thing? This is where a lot of people struggle, because I find most of us are in the space of wanting to look at all the different ways that you can make money. And why wouldn't you want to leverage all those different ways, because they're all potential revenue streams. And you hear people talking about having diversified revenue streams and lots of different options coming in. But just think about this, the more different vehicles that you're trying to drive down the road, and you've got one engine driving it, how effective do you think those vehicles are at moving and getting there? Whereas if you've got one engine and then one main vehicle, and maybe there's a few other ones that are tacked on behind it, like it's towing those other ones, that vehicle with that engine is going to be far more effective at getting to the end of the road than if they were all separate and there's one engine's trying to drive all of them at different times and jumping between them and giving this one a push, giving that one a push, trying to keep them all going, but they're all separate. That's really not a smart way to be doing business, yet it's what most businesses are doing. So this plan, as I said, I'm all about simplifying, and it can be hard at first, especially if we've created lots of complexity. It's hard to streamline, it's hard to simplify it down, but that's what we really need to do if we're wanting to grow. From there, we map out the high level, your marketing funnel. I like to call it marketing funnel. It's really the functions of your marketing and sales systems. So you've got 3 steps to that if we make it really simple, because again, we're trying to simplify this down so that we're just clear. There's no confusion. We're clear on what it is that we're doing. Step 1, the audience. How are you building the audience? And it's not about all the different ways, but what is your primary method? We're focusing on the main one, because again, we're putting all of our eggs into the engine, the main engine that's going to drive us down the street. We don't want to be pushing lots and lots of little vehicles down the road with only one engine driving it. That would be really hard. So we're looking for that one main audience building platform. How are you reaching people? How are you growing an audience and a community of people who you're selling to? So that's your step 1. Step 2 is how you're getting leads. So how are you converting that audience into leads? What's your primary method of lead generation? And a lead means that they've given you their name and email address, contact details. They put their hand up. They're now known to you personally. Step 3 is your sales system. So how do you make a sale? What's your primary method of converting those leads into sales? Now, I keep emphasizing the word primary because, yes, we're in business. Yes, we're going to have multiple services for sure. And they might have slightly different methods of selling. They might have slightly different methods of lead generation. But the more we can streamline our business to put the effort behind one main marketing and sales system that's aligned together, so the audience build goes into the leads, it goes into the sales and the customers from there, that will give you a lot more power, a lot more clarity, focus, just really makes life a lot easier. So we'll have one primary method for that. And the 4th step is, what is that sales system? So we break that down to another level and we get into the numbers of, we know what the end revenue goal is. What does that mean that we need to be looking at in terms of sales? And I always work backwards from the end. So, how many clients do we need to reach that number? Because of that, how many leads do we need to get that number of clients? How many people do we need in the audience to get that number of leads? And when we break it down like that, we can see really quickly where is the weak spot in our marketing sales system. How can we plug it up? What can we do to grow that so that this system works and generates the outcome that we want? So if you would like to improve the marketing of your business, then the first place we always start is with your ideal customer avatar. Now, my system for your ideal client is different to most. With my ultimate customer avatar worksheet, there are 35 questions to help you really deep dive into what your ideal client is currently thinking, feeling, and what their goals are, what they're doing in their buying behavior. Go to jessicaosborne.com/customer-avatar to download your free copy of my Ultimate Customer Avatar Worksheet today. And let's get started on defining who that ideal client really is.